Come on, let's hear it. Come on, boo! Thank you. That concludes tonight's salute to Mayor Lindsay. You are mere putty. Oh, how does it feel not only to be putty, to be silly putty? Oh, yes, poor old fun Mayor Lindsay. Wonder how he's doing with the rats. Does Gracie Mansion have cockroaches? You know, somehow you think people who are like mayors and presidents, senators, they all live in a very rarefied world. You know, people like Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, Laurence Olivier, the star world. And you know, it's somehow, life doesn't work that way. Can't you just see Mayor Lindsay at Gracie Mansion? He sits down at the table for breakfast. You know, and he's all dressed up. You know, he wears those great-looking suits, his wavy hair. His teeth have been painted for the day. You know, they've squared his jaw up. All the kids have been neatly wrapped in neoprene for the afternoon. You know, and Mrs. Lindsay is over at the other end of the table, and the maid comes in with the silver platter, lays it down. Mayor Lindsay reaches out and picks it up, and 4 roaches come out from under the cinnamon Melba toast. 4 Democratic roaches. Now, have you ever had the feeling that even bugs have political affiliations? Have you ever had the feeling that roaches are basically Democrats? You can't imagine a Republican roach. I mean, you know, because my experience... Oh, yes, now I want to tell you a little story. Somebody said, tell a story tonight about cockroaches. Now, I'm a cockroach fan. I mean, there are people who love horses. There are people who even love Airedales. And let me tell you, you're talking to one of the very few qualified, and I admit it, I am a sinner. I hate dogs. Saying that in the mid-1960s in America... Well, you could say anything about the flag and get applause. I mean, I could say anything about the government, and people will love me. But to admit that you cannot take dogs, well, I'll tell you why I can't take dogs. It depends on how you relate to a dog. Now, if you're a dog owner and this thing walks along by you know, you're patting them on the head, that's your scene, you know. I mean, you can put up with all that slobber. You know, that's your scene. If you can spend half of your life standing next to fire plugs. Have you ever noticed the various types of looks that these very fastidious ladies adopt when their dog is... And all the kids are walking along. You know, oh yeah, there are all kinds of little problems you got to work out, you know, when you've got dogs. But I'm a kid. When I first discovered that dogs and me don't make it, I was a kid, see. I was playing this kid part at the time, and I'm 8 years old, and I've just gotten a job. And every morning I am delivering the Chicago Tribune. Now, they delivered the Chicago Tribune at this fantastic hour. It was 5:15. And the sun was always just coming up over the steel mills. And I would get out, I would get on my bicycle. See, I had this Elgin Sears Roebuck bike. And I'd get on the bike, and the seat is cold. And I was always wearing these blue jeans, and they're always cold in the morning, see. My tennis shoes have got water in them. And I've always got on this T-shirt, see, and a corduroy hat. And every morning I had 2 big sacks hanging on my back. Great big, big cross things across me. 75 pounds of Chicago Tribune over here. 85 pounds over here. See, I'm basically a righty. And I get on my bike, see. I'm sitting down. Have you ever watched a newsboy deliver papers? It is an art in itself. It's one of the unsung talents. And I've always felt that every job that a man has, whether he works on a garbage truck or whether he's an electronic computer repairman, there are little satisfactions that the public does not know about. And as a newsboy, I would go out on my route, and it's now 5:30. I've got them all packed in there, see? And by the way, the Chicago Tribune, in case you don't know about this newspaper, this is the paper that says on the front of it, the world's greatest newspaper. How's that for a chutzpah? Well, the Times says all the news that's fit to print. I mean, that's a pretty gutsy statement. Don't you wonder about the stuff they don't print? Wouldn't you love to read that? You see all of that in the Inquirer. There's always a front page that says, axe murderer slays 9. Boils them up in the basement to make soap. Gives soap to girlfriend for Christmas. And you wonder why you never saw it in the Times. Such great murders. And so every morning I am out with the Chicago Tribune. And incidentally, the Chicago Tribune has an editorial page that's made out of concrete. I mean, it's a very heavy one. And I'd go out in the morning. See, it's 5:30 in the morning. See, I get out. I got the old Elgin going, see, and the seat's starting to get hot. And now I arrive at the first house on my route, see, and I can still see it. It was a 2-story house with one of these apartments above and an apartment below, and it had this peaked roof. Well, now, a newsboy learns all kinds of deliveries. See, and this one here is on my left, see. So I reach into this sack, see, pumping all the while, pull out a paper, and I would wait until my left wing was even with the basement door. So you just have to play it. It's all timing, see. And then right at the precise moment, an underhand shot, and then up and over and behind the left shoulder. Like that. I'd wait, see. 1, 2, 3, and then I would hear dunk, dunk, dunk. That's 3 straight days into the water drain pipe, 3 days running. And it's not easy to hit a little drain pipe that wide on the fly, And then I would go 3 more doors down, and they had this, on this one, they had a long porch, see. And on this porch, there was one of these boxes of geraniums. It was sticking out, see. And every day I tried to pick another geranium. On that house, I always used a flat trajectory, see, because I could not only get the geranium, but once in a great while, on the ricochet, the front door with the glass pane. I sing, and I just pick off the head, ding. Oh, it's going to be a good day, see. Oh, Shep is swinging, And then the third house, this was always the test. In every job, there's a test. I'm sure that each one of you guys has got one little thing during your day, that is the moment of decision. To most executives, it's who he's going to lunch with. Now, that's the big moment of the day. Like I've got this friend who's a radiologist. And every day when he's looking at all these beautiful pictures, he's got about 100 different big x-rays, he's always hoping that one day he will see a golf ball. He's seen 2 tennis balls, but he happens to be a golf nut, And so that third house was my favorite house because it was one of those houses, that's got a passageway that runs up the side, and there's 2 apartments off each one. And the house on the top floor got the paper. And always sitting right in the corner of the top landing, right stuck in the corner, was this metal can. This metal can was one of these things that ladies used to scrub floors with. And I used to hope every day as I would play the shot. See, it's going up the stairs, it's a slider, actually, you had to throw. For those of you that are baseball fans, you had to get that low spin, and up and down, see. And I'd come along like that, and you put the spin on the wrist, you'd see it climbing up the stairs, see. It would hit the 3rd stair down and go, dum, dum, ding, dum. dunk, dunk. Splash. And I'd hear all that water go all over, see? And then there was always a brief pause, and then I would hear this scream of rage come out of the house. And then I would holler back, nothing is more satisfying than an obscene gesture at 5:30 in the morning. Well, all right now, you want to know about the dog, see? I would go about halfway through my route, and then the bad scene would start. I would get into dog country. I mean, you know, it's like a hunter in Kenya. You know, when he enters leopard country, instantly he's on the alert. He has left gazelle country, and now he's where the rhino lurks. Well, now I was right in the heart of Airedale country. And I remember how they used to play me. There was, on this side of the street, there were 2 Spits and a Chow. I mean, is there somebody in this crowd who actually likes a dog named a Spitz? Isn't that a terrible name? Spitz. I mean, polite society doesn't even say it. Well, I had 2 Spits and a Chow. Now, let me tell you about this Chow. He had stainless steel teeth. He had a purple tongue. He weighed 400 pounds. And he used to wait. He was the kind of dog that would wait like a dash runner. And I'd see those 2 red eyes, see? Well, always, I was euchred in it all the time. I would come along and I would see the Chow, see? And I would see the 2 Spitzes, and I would begin to prepare for their attack. I would pull to the left, and that damn Airedale would come out of the privet hedge and grab my left knee. Every time, you know, these were the decoys, see? Well, he would slow me up, and the Chow would hit me from behind. Well, I don't know whether you have ridden ever in your life an Elgin bike for 4 blocks with an Airedale hanging out of your left knee. I doubt very much whether many of you have. And so, you get very good. You know, I used to work like this. I used to work on little things. See, like many of the times, I would hold my knee out. Like, here it is, fellas. And I would just wait at that precise moment. The Airedale would go, he'd leap, see? And I would catch him in the groin, see? Then I'd flip him on the head, you know, and hit him with a tribune as he's falling. So within every little industry, there are techniques. And I used to get through this day, you know, I used to hate dogs. But then came that day. Never forget it. The day of the supreme moment of education. And it always came, you know, when you're dealing with money. I mean, I think this is one of the areas of human... I mean, you go to the Polynesian Islands, and they got shells. It's their money. And they will fight over it. Well, I used to go around and collect. Have any of you ever collected for a paper on a Saturday morning? You know, you'd knock on a door. You got your little book. The door would open, and there standing in the door is a guy wearing nothing but a BVDs. His eyes are red. You know, it's Saturday morning, and this guy works in the steel mill. And his pay comes Friday night, and he's been drinking it for 18 straight hours. And you look at him, you say, I'll collect for the paper. Just shut up. 84 cents. Boom. I know how Willie Loman feels. Well, every week, though, there was this great moment. I looked forward to it. There was this simple little brown house. And I used to go up the stairs, and I would knock on the door. And the door would open, and instantly out of the house would come this heady, thick aroma. It smelled like incense, dime store perfume. And out of the darkness would come this lady wearing this filmy thing. She'd come out, and she'd stand there, and she'd say, yes? Paper boy. And she'd say, yes, what can I do for you? 36 cents. And she'd say, oh, I'll see. I'll get it. And she would disappear, and I'm standing out there. This was my big moment every week. I'd look forward to collecting from this lady. And she would disappear into the darkness. And I'd smell that aroma. And then she'd come out and she'd give me 36 pennies. And they were hot. I'd take them, say, thank you. She'd say, think nothing of it. Will you be back next week? Yeah. Week after week. And I would go home and I would think about her, see. Because I'd always heard these stories, you know, of milkmen. You know, the whole stick, you know. And when you're 9 years old, you dream, you know. And I always imagined myself one day coming up there in my blue jeans, you know, strong and handsome, and she says, come in. And 10 minutes later, I never went any further. You see, because at that time, I was still listening to Little Orphan Annie. You know, and I didn't know what quite would happen. But these are the moments that all of us live in. These moments of education. And you know, a couple of nights ago, I did a show in front of a bunch of kids. Now I want you to listen. And all these kids are sitting out there and they had just started school. It was over in New Jersey. And I looked out over them and I said, all right, what is your favorite story? Which story would you like to hear since you have just gone back to school? And they sat out there. And finally, one little kid put his hand up. And I said, yes. And he says, I'm speaking for the whole junior class. I says, yes, there's always one kid who thinks he does. I want to hear the story of May, the second grade stripper. And the entire school went ape. Do you want to hear the story of May, the second grade stripper, tonight? Come on, let's do it. Well, I'll tell you, I always, and I saved this story. Now, I don't know whether we've got a whole bunch of the guys here. By the way, this crowd sitting at this table, in case you're interested, is a group of athletes, and they come down to the Limelight a lot, and they're with the New York General soccer team. Give them a hand. Come on, stand up, man. Come on, come on. They're soccer players. You know, and the reason I did that right at this moment is because I don't know much about the English school system. And I really don't know how kids act in an English school. But all of us here are Americans, and before we go any further, let's get the station break out of the way so we can go right ahead. What fantastic, deep-thinking radio station is this, gang? Let's hear it. And what fun city are we in? That's right. And right about now, they're towing your car away. Right about now. Yeah, they always wait till about 11:30. In fact, you can hear the bumpers clanking. You guys are all going to like it down at the docks. That's part of the trip to New York on a Saturday night, going down and getting your car out of the slam. You know, I always have a hope when I go down there that instead of the tin can that I drive, they're going to give me the keys to an Aston Martin. They always seem to know my car. And I noticed one thing about the cops that tow your car away. They're very creative. In fact, every time they towed my car away now, and it's been over 12 times, they did it in a different spot. Oh, yeah, they always say, we didn't do nothing to it. You don't argue with the fuzz. Not when he's holding a $45 ticket in his hand, you know? That's part of life's little education. You learn who to argue with and who not to. You learn who to hit and who to let hit you. Oh, yes, that's part of growing up. And this is one of the things that you learn in school, you see, in America. In school, in America, there is always one kid in usually every class who's the bully. Do you have them in England? there's always one kid. He's always got a name like Nick. It's never Clarence. It's never Howard, or Marty. It's always Al. Now, this is a boy thing. Girls don't know about this. Not really. There's always an Al or a Nick, and he's got a toady. Now, that toady has usually got a rotten name like Cliff. And he's snively. He's got yellow eyes. And he's always standing next to Al saying, hit him. And there you are, you're a little innocent Charlie standing next to the swings. And we had this bully named Grover Dill. I mean, how about that for a bully named Dill? Ooh, Dill. Yeah. Even now, I get a sick feeling in my gut when I think of Grover Dill. He had narrow, slanty eyes. And Dill used to come out and stand around next to the swings. Yeah, we had swings. Nobody ever swung on them. I mean, we had swings out in the yard there, We did other things. We, played craps and stuff, but never swing. And he'd stand next to the swings, see, and every day, Grover would look for the kid that he's going to hit today. And me and Schwartz and Bruner and Flick, all the rest of us, were always drifting around. And one of the great moments, though, was when Grover would say hi to you and not hit you. I mean, yeah, it was a great. I think all males secretly have a desire, really, to have somebody like Frank Costello come up to him and say, "Why, Howie, how are you?" And you're sitting there in the Four Seasons, and everybody knows Lucky Luciano. There's a secret desire to connect yourself with evil. I mean, it's not necessarily true you want to be evil, but you like to get recognized by it. And so I'm standing out in the yard one day, me, Flick, Schwartz, it's recess time. Do you remember recess time? Do they have those in English schools? They let you out for 10 or 15 minutes. It's an early coffee break is what it is. I mean, in America we call it the coffee break, and the kids all stand around, and the wind is blowing like mad. It's winter, see? And they used to just push us out of school for 15 minutes, out of the warm school, and we'd stand in the sand with our earmuffs on. What are you going to do? The ground is frozen. You go clink, clink, clunk, The wind is howling down over the top of the school. Woo! And we're wearing our sheepskins. In fact, they could stand by themselves. They were aromatic, and they were great, and I'm walking, I had these holes in the pockets. And one great thing about knickers is when you drop stuff through the holes in the pockets, it gets around the knees. And you got bottle caps in your knees, all kinds of crud. Once in a while I'd open up my pants and blah! It'd all pour out, So on this great day, me and Flick and Schwartz and Bruner walking around, with our knickers going. And over in the corner there, Grover Dill is beating up Jack Morton. We didn't care, there's always some kids in the class that don't count. I mean, they're not important enough to be nothings. And they're not bullies, they're just, kind of a skinny kid that gets B+ on everything. He's over there beating up Jack Morton. We didn't even bother to look. You could hear Morton squeaking. His head is banging against the ground. Dill, is kicking him in the ribs. And Cliff is over here stepping on his knees, We're watching, walking around. And the girls, always would gather in their own little place. You see, they're all huddled up against the building. The wind is screaming over us. It's recess, see? It's afternoon recess. Now, that was a good one, you see, because always I would save for the afternoon recess 1/2 of a Twinkie. Twinkies come in twos, And I was hung on the banana Twinkies, see? And so I would save it for recess, and it would get frozen. I'm standing out there eating the Twinkie. And Schwartz is eating the half of the sandwich that he always made. He'd bring the sandwich from home, and it was peanut butter, listen carefully, peanut butter, jelly, bananas, and mayonnaise on raisin bread. And he's over there eating this thing, see, and I'm eating the Twinkie. You know, Flick is working his way through an apple. Little did we realize that one of the great moments, I mean, we didn't learn anything in school. I mean, what are you going to, you know, I never did learn the multiplication tables. I mean, do you still today say, let's see, 8 times 5. 8 times 5. 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. You ever watched a lady in the Chase Manhattan Bank trying to add up her checks? And she puts little ones over everything and little twos, subtract ones, all the little lines. You could see that her grade school education's so thin. And, you know, we never really learned anything. They read Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy to us. And once in a while, Miss Shields would say, now, children, 7 times 5 is what? And always, Eileen Akers' hand would go up. 35! And Schwartz would say, ugh. He wanted to kill her. And that's the way grade school went, hour after hour. We just would sit in our knickers fermenting. And all around the walls would be our artworks. I mean, you know, they pin them up. I was a pumpkin man. You know that for 8 straight years through grade school, I learned that I could get an applause from the art teacher by drawing a pumpkin. And I had these great pumpkins, and every year there's a pumpkin hanging. And maybe once in a while there'd be a turkey. They'd make a turkey, and then there'd be a Christmas tree. Every season there'd be a new thing. And then there would be an Easter bunny. You know, it was only later that we began to think of drawing other things. You know, kids go through that phase too. And so now it's 2nd grade, see, and we're out at recess. It's recess in the afternoon. We're standing. The wind is coming down. I'm wearing my sheepskin coat. I've downed the Twinkie. We got about another 10 minutes to go. We're just standing. And you can see all the windows of the school with the pumpkins in the windows. And once in a while, off in the distance, you could hear the 5th grade. And they are singing. See, they didn't have recess at the time we did. And you could hear them singing, America the beautiful, da, 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 da. And then you'd hear, ooh. You know, that little pitch pipe? You ever wanted to own a pitch pipe? You know, just blow it. And you'd hear, ooh, America the beautiful. And I'm standing next to Schwartz. And Flick is standing there eating his apple when all of a sudden, over by the steps, about 100 yards away, there is a crowd gathered. Well, now, over here, Grover Dill was beating up Jack Morton. And there was nobody watching. So we figured it was an important fight. You know, an unscheduled fight. You know, it's an ad-lib fight. Who's beating who? You know, the only guy, there's Grover Dill. You know, who the heck's doing the fight? You know, the fighting. So Flick says, let's go over. So instantly we go over there with our sheepskins, you know, and we got the helmets on with the goggles. We're wearing the knickers. And there in the middle of the crowd, there's about 50 of them, these kids all standing around. In the middle of the crowd is one girl. May. May was the quiet girl in 2nd grade. Yeah, little May Wilson. Always sat in the back there with all the rest of us. You know, there's certain kids that just never make contact with any other kid. And you know, me and Schwartz, we had our friends, Flick, Bruner, George Doppler, Helen Weathers, big fat Helen sitting there. I mean, Helen Weathers was the only human girl we knew. You know, she did everything we did. She burped and everything, you know. All the other girls were kind of remote, you know. And there's Helen sitting there, you know, and Schwartz, all the people in the last part of the room. See, everybody in our school was alphabetical. And so all my friends were like Schwartz, Zinsmeister, Helen Weathers, you know. And I'm sitting in the back of the alphabet there, and back there was little May Wilson. She sat over in the corner and never said anything. And she was kind of a tall, pale girl. You know, the kind that always wears, her mother makes her wear pigtails, and her hair's going down the back, and she was very quiet. And she wore gold-rimmed glasses. And May, the instant school was out, she would disappear. She'd be gone. And the rest of us would walk down the street. You know, I would walk down the street home, and on the other side would be Esther Jane, Albury. She was from the A's, and hence was out of the other yard where the grass is greener. I used to walk along, and that was the first moment of love, of course. It was the first day that I threw a rock at Esther Jane. You know, and Esther Jane is walking along over there with Eileen Akers. I said, watch this, Schwartz. Wow. And it's going right at her. You know, that terrible moment of realizing that your wing has developed? It's going right at her. Watch out! And she turned, and it caught her on the side of the head. And as she spun up in the air and through the privet hedge, there was that look of pure love. And that was how Esther Jane and I first made it. And so these little things, you know, there was the whole life of our grade school, and May Wilson never entered any of this stuff. And now here it is. It's a cold fall day. The wind is howling down from Lake Michigan. It is screaming down out of the North Woods. And on the horizon you see the flickering flames of the hell of the fires that are coming from the blast furnace, from the steel mills. And you can see the gray smoke rising. And you can hear the 5th grade class singing faintly, America, the beautiful, la da da dee dee dee, oh, your fields of waving da da do. Little did we realize that moment we were about to receive the most educational instant of our entire school world. There in the crowd, right in the middle of that gang, was May Wilson. And she had her glasses off. And behind her, you know, girls always go in pairs. Men know this. For every beautiful girl, there is a dog. And if you know your girls, the beautiful girl always tells you the dog is a very nice girl. And you really should take her out. And that's who you usually take out. In fact, looking down, that's who you usually marry. And the beautiful ones go off into limbo somewhere, you know. Yeah, that's who we settle for. We always settle for the girlfriend. And so here in the middle of the crowd, I'm looking, see, I can't believe my eyes. And here is Schwartz next to me. And I hear Schwartz take that deep intake of breath. And here all around the whole crowd, their eyes are like saucers. The 2nd grade is assembled. The 1st grade is there. The 3rd grade is there. Half of the 4th grade is there. The only crowd that isn't here, you know, is the 5th grade, and they're singing America the Beautiful. The 6th grade, they're taking their nap. And the only people that aren't in this crowd is old Grover Dill. He's still beating up Jack Morton. You know? And his buddy is still kicking Jack's knee. And we're standing looking. And there in the middle of it all is May Wilson. And May has her glasses off and she has taken her hair down. Her hair hung down to her waist. And it was blonde. It was floating in the wind. And she was taking off her blouse. She had taken off her sheepskin coat. Her high tops were off. And now she's taking off her blouse. And she's walking around like this. You know, dum, 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 dum. You can hear the tom-toms. I mean, you know, it was a wild moment. And behind her is her little girlfriend, Kathy. A little short, round girl, and she is carrying the blouse. You know, that's the girlfriend. She had the thick glasses. And May is taking her blouse off. And then I heard Schwartz say, "Take it off. Take it off." And she takes it off like this. Boom, boom. And she drops it. And it goes, tuku, 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 tuku. And all around us were the windows with pumpkins hanging in them. And then she had this skirt, see? And it was one of these, you know, the kind of skirts that all kids wear in grade school. It's got all the pleats, you know, and it's kind of tartan plaid, you know, the kind of skirt, and it's got a tight band, see? Well, you know, there had been a lot of conjecture about those skirts among Schwartz and Flick and Bruner and me. And here she is. She's going like this. And you can hear boom, da-da-doom, da-da-doom. The drums are beating. And the whole crowd is gathering and watching. And you can hear Grover Dill has stopped hitting Morton's head against the sand. And Morton is getting up. He's got a bloody nose. The word has gotten over even to the fight that May is stripping. And he comes over and he's standing there. You see the whole crowd is gathering. And now she takes that. You never saw such technique in your life. I don't know where she learned it. Little May, you know, she's got this skirt. And she goes zip. And she holds it tight. I mean, it was wild. Even the girls were going out of their skull. I mean, Eileen Akers was sweating. And then, with a dramatic flourish, she goes, whew, and she flicks her hip. Down comes the skirt. There's a roar of applause. Hooray! You know, it's all out there. Now kids are coming from George Rogers Clark School. They were 7 blocks away. You see, the word had gotten out. Kids are pouring down for blocks, you know. And now she's got this little slip, see? Now, you know how these little slips are. You know, it's a little slip, see, and it's got a little band around it of elastic. We're watching this, see, and she takes her thumb. What a gesture. She goes, thum, da-da-thum, da-da-thum, thum, da-da-thum, 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 thum, da-da. Snap! She's popping that elastic band. Well, now, I must give you a little flashback. Our principal of our school was a lady named Miss Norton. Miss Norton was made out of pure carborundum. She was a tall, thin maiden lady who had steel gray hair. She had steel gray glasses. She wore a steel gray sensible suit. I mean, always. She wore that suit every day in school, and she wore space shoes. I always say, watch out for a vegetarian who wears space shoes. You know the kind of shoes, you know, that look like Frankenstein shoes? And here is Miss Norton, you know, year after year, she has been presiding over our world in her gray shoes. Well, outside, right now, taking off a tartan plaid skirt, is little May. The crowd is cheering. And you know, we're excited because there's only a minute and a half left of the recess. I mean, this chick was a born showman, you know. She was playing us for all we were worth, you know, and out there in the distance we could hear, America. How symbolic. The beautiful, we see these stands at Yahoo. And little May takes that elastic band and she goes ka-toing. And then she stands stock still in the crowd. And her hair is floating. Floating like this golden nimbus around her. What a vision. Little Kathy is standing behind her, holding the blouse. And she's got the skirt. And Schwartz is now down on his knees. I mean, and I'll tell you, my Twinkie, I mean, out of pure excitement. Have you ever had an excitement stomach? Well, my stomach was flipping up so much that my Twinkie was making a return engagement. You know, he was coming up for second, see? Holy smokes, it's actually happening, what we always dreamed of. Me and Schwartz and Flick and Fruner, once in a while one of us would draw, you know, what we thought a girl was like on the back, maybe on the back fence, back of Mrs. Mattingly's house. But here was the real thing. And she's standing there with her slip, and it's getting colder. And you can hear the American flag. You know how they have this big metal flagpole, and it's got this rope that goes up the side of it, and the wind is hitting it, and it's going doing, doing. And May is using that for the beat. Doing, doing. And she'd flip like that. May Wilson. And down in a cloud of silken rayon goes her Sears Roebuck slip. Just whoo. And there she is. All she's left in are these little pink things that went down to her knees. You know, these little pink things, and they had little round rubber things where you hook the garters on. The whole crowd is waiting. And Schwartz has got this Mickey Mouse watch. I mean, we got about 10 seconds left to go. And she takes the elastic band of those little panties. She goes, ka-thung. And her little stomach goes, kaboom. Holy smokes. Oh, boy. And then all of a sudden, just as we are about to hit pay dirt, the door of the school slams open. And there, standing on the steps, is Miss Norton. And she looks down, and there's May with her hair floating. And here's the crowd. They have just finished a giant chant of, "Take it off!" And she says, and how many times have you heard this in school? "What's going on here?" It wasn't what was going on. And instantly, Miss Norton saw that it was what was coming off that was happening. And she looked down, and little May, you know, her eyes gleaming, without a word. What tact, what poise. She takes her little slip, pulls it up, puts her little blouse on. The entire lower grades had been caught in sin. You know, watching is as much a sin as taking off. We stood there. And May, boy, with that look, she puts on her slip and puts on her skirt. And Miss Norton just stood and looked. Her iron gray hair with the wind blowing through it. You could hear it picking up that tortoise comb. You could hear a high C flat note. And back in the distance, they are finishing the last few phrases. America, the beautiful. And then the bell went, ah! And all of us lined up, and in we came. Very innocent. We sat down, and up in front of the class was Miss Shields, our teacher, who every day during recess sat and ate celery. She never went out. She would sit and eat celery with she had a little salt shaker. And she had this set of dentures. Have you ever had a second grade teacher who ate celery with dentures going? I mean, somehow it's all part of the educational scene. And Miss Shields looks down at us, you know, innocently. She didn't know what happened. And we all sat down and we looked. And you know, it was snowing out now. And something must have rung a bell in her head. Why is the entire second grade sweating? And she looks down and she says, "Well, did you have fun at recess?" You know, wow, instantly the whole class, yeah. And then the telephone rang. You know, we had this little telephone in the corner of the room, and it goes ding, ding. And Miss Shields goes over and picks it up. She says, "Yes." "May? Little May Wilson?" She did what? And here's May sitting in the back. She's got her glasses on again, and she has withdrawn to her original status. She's no longer with us. Helen Weathers is sitting in front there, burping a little bit. And she says, May did what? She did. There we sat. 36 little debauched sinners in second grade, surrounded by our pumpkins. And she looked down and sat at her desk. You know, teachers have these desks for a long moment. And then she said, well, as you know, every day after recess in the afternoon, before we take our nap, we read Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy. And in spite of what happened today, I'm going to read Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy. See, she was trying to pretend that we were still interested in the camel with the wrinkled knees. There's certain type of people that in spite of what they see in front of their face have to pretend that it ain't happening. And so she got up there with her little book and she says, as you all remember, Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy were about to visit the balloon fairies. Raggedy said, and we should have a lot of fun today. Children, don't you think they will have fun with the balloon fairies? We're all leaning forward. She says, aren't you curious as to what Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy did when they had their picnic? We were always waiting for Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy to get to that point, but they never did. And so Miss Shields read Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy, and we went on into the nap time. And after that, we had arithmetic. And then we went home. But the next day came the payoff. Every morning before school started, we would all gather in the gymnasium every morning, and we would swear allegiance to the flag. Do you remember that? I swear allegiance to the flag, blah, 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 brave, clean, and reverent. And then we would sing, God bless America. And every morning we would be led by Miss Norton. Remember that? Every morning, Miss Norton with her iron gray hair, with her iron gray glasses, with her iron gray wool shirt and skirt. And we all gathered in there the next day. And boy, were there a lot of rumors that night back in the garage about May Wilson. All of a sudden, May was a star. I'll tell you, we forgot all about Eileen Akers, you know. May Wilson was all they ever talked about after that. Well, that morning, we're all standing in there, and Miss Shields has got the piano. You know, the piano they always play. They sit over there and they play, da, 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 da. And we're all standing. And in comes Miss Norton. And the entire lower grades, the whole crowd, the first grade, the second grade, the third grade, the fourth grade, everybody but the fifth grade. They were taking another nap. The entire crowd goes, Miss Norton comes in and she is wearing a plaid skirt. Schwartz looks at me and says, "Watch this." Everyone was hoping that as we're singing the God Save America or Hooray for the Field of Waving Grain or whatever it was, Miss Norton was going to grab that zipper. Well, Miss Norton just looked down at us and she says, "Children," she flicks her skirt, And you know, for the first time, she had her hair down. I guess Miss Norton got an idea or two from Mae Wilson. She had her hair down, and she was wearing Harlequin glasses with purple frames. Miss Norton looks down and says, children, instead of singing America the Beautiful this morning, any of you have a song you'd like to sing? Well, there was a song that the second grade always sung out in recess when none of the teachers were around. How many of you remember it? It was a song that went like this. Oh, the monkey puts his tail around. Well, Flick says, Miss Norton, how about the one about the monkey puts his tail? She says, very good. She says, do you know that, Miss Shields? And Miss Shields says, you bet. And the entire lower grade sang, when the monkey puts his tail, let's sing it, when the monkey puts his tail around the flagpole. Isn't art wonderful, friends? Let's hear it. Come on.
This is WOR Radio, your station for news.